All right, my friends, welcome to the WriteNow Writers Group meeting 25. We have a full group today. We have a full house. I know when I hop into the stream, we got 40 comments to catch up on. So clearly I'm late to the conversation, but that's a great thing because what more do we want to do than talk about writing? I mean, you guys know me. I'm here 350 days a year chatting about writing every single day. I think my message and my motto of the year is if you don't feel like writing, write anyways. Mm-hmm. That's my motto. That's my motto of 2024. Awesome. So you guys all know me. I'm Kaufman, WriteNow community, doing this writing thing every single day. Hopefully I can finish Scarecrow, working on the cover design, just about wrapped up Act 1 of the second draft, which is mind blown. So that's a little bit about me. I'll pass it off to you guys. Everyone can do a quick little intro for the community, for any of our new members coming in, and we'll popcorn. So I will popcorn over to Crazy.
Crazy Root Beer is here today.
Let's see. Create any like motto. I was like, I probably should have framed this. What's your writing motto? All right, guys. Everyone writing mottos to share with the community. What's your thing with writing?
That is kind of difficult for me to say on that one.
It's like on the spot, right? Hopefully, don't procrastinate.
I would say if you can think of something like an adventure or whatever, write it. Just write it. And I'm sure it'll become a book. Your imagination can become a book.
That's actually a good quote. Your imagination can become a book. Awesome. I love that, Crazy. Thank you so much. I'll let you popcorn it to the victim of your choice.
Soul.
So everyone knows me as Chat Soul. My motto would probably be you're better than you think you are.
That's good. That's good. I like that.
At least it's been my experience.
I feel like we're all like in that writing mindset. Sometimes we're writing and we're like, my writing sucks. And then you pull back and like, hey, this is actually better than I thought.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you pull back and you're like, no, this is actually garbage.
Yeah,
all
no,
right.
If you think your writing sucks, then your writing is actually good. If you think your writing is good, maybe take another look at it.
Awesome. So that's a great motto. I'll let you popcorn it over.
Chris.
I'm going to say, honestly, exact opposite of what Jared said. I'm going to be like, if you need to take a break, take a break. If you need to take a mental break, take a break. No need to burn yourself out and no need to mentally stress yourself out over your art.
Super valid.
I actually really like that theme as well. This is a great conversation to have after intros. We'll come back to it, but I actually do agree with this as well.
So I guess I'll go to Tiara.
All right. Hi, Tiara. I'm here with Lady Sansa. We're just hanging out. This is my first time joining the gang, so I'm excited to be here. I'm going to popcorn it to Bobby.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bobby. If you can hear TV in the background, I apologize, but I'll mute in a second. I'm actually about to publish my first novel on Saturday.
Yeah,
the name is TBD, and I got to get that decided before Saturday, or else I'm SOL. And that's not a pun on your name, Soul. I had to say it. I was looking right at Soul, awesome. And I thought I had to say it.
You know what's funny is? Oh no, what were you saying, Bobby?
I was just gonna say my motto is, you know how some people like to say shut up or hush or whatever. My motto is put a pin to it. Instead of put a pin in it, put a pin to it.
It's a good motto. That's a really good motto. Put a pen to it. It's almost like borderlines my secondary comedic motto, which is if you have a problem, and maybe your writing sucks, your character sucks, life sucks, and you just don't know what to do, put a dragon on it.
I completely forgot my motto, guys. My motto, I literally thought of it on the way at some point, but just get it on paper. My brain can't get anything out because I'm like, what if it's bad? Just get it on paper, girl. Just write it out, fix it later.
Just get it. I think that's actually a really, really great motto. Let's see what I'm asking the community. What's your writing motto? I would love to hear if you are here in the chat and you're joining us. I just posed it as a Q&A. What's your writing motto when it comes to storytelling, writing, whether you're working on books, novels, scripts, or anything in between? So let me just welcome everybody. Megan, glad to have you here in the stream. ML, welcome, welcome, my friend. And I see a couple of us here in the chat. Also, let's see, trying to go through the chat. John, welcome.
Comments.
What was that?
I said you can skip over my comments.
Let's see, John, I think it's better to know your writing is good, which I mean, I think that could be a huge plus, right? And Martha,
there's a difference between
welcome.
knowing your writing is good and just constantly saying your writing is good.
Right. And I think it's trying to understand that balance between the two, right? Is your writing good? Like, is it coming from a place of ego, right? Or is it coming from a place of maybe there's a humbleness and a humility to it, to know, but be humble, right? And I think there's a balancing scale there. And Jenny, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you guys all here in the stream. But I think this is actually, a couple really good conversations, right? I think we all have that feeling. We know when we write something and like it's good. Like maybe the characters came out just right. Maybe the dialogue was awesome. And then I think it's trying to understand, is it actually a good piece of writing, or are we biased because we're the ones that wrote it? Does this happen to you guys at all? Where you're like, you write something and do you feel like you're able to kind of distinguish when you write something that's really awesome and something that's just mediocre?
I feel like all of my writing is mediocre until people tell me it's good. So I feel like all of it just kind of is just fine. And then I have
if it's all just here, then I will let the readers decide what is awesome.
I do another kind of group thing, and we sometimes end on story time. So I have been sharing my short story, like just reading a scene, and every single time everyone's like, I can just visualize the scene with your writing is just so visual. I can just see the scene. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to take that as a win, and I'm still mediocre.
I mean, that's probably a good, or not a good, but that's just a different perspective to take, right? It's like the humility, the humility side of it. And I mean, this is the truth, right? So regardless of whether or not we think our writing is awesome, mediocre, terrible, we aren't the ones who actually get to decide if our writing's good or not. The readers get to decide if our writing's good or not. And I think that's always the interesting thing with being an author or being a screenwriter, because like we could put all this work, all this energy, drive, motivation, money into it, but we won't know how it's perceived. I mean, unless we do the beta readers and the alpha readers, but we won't know how it's perceived until it gets put out there. And
I just got a couple comments on on one of my fan fictions the other day. I think actually yesterday I got them, and I'm just sitting there like, oh, so people are actually liking this.
I got a 4-star on my short story on Amazon, so that's only one person.
That's awesome.
One person, but I still got 4 stars.
Hey, one person is better than none.
Yeah, exactly. And that's better than like a 1-star review being like, this is the worst thing I've ever read. Makes me want to burn my eyes out. I'm
expecting those.
I guess if somebody would give me a 1-star review, I'd be like, well, hey, at least you read through the book. What was the part that you hated? What was like the part that you like could not stand that made you burn your eyes out? Maybe it's intentionally supposed to be like that.
And I think it kind of is the same with, even if you yourself know that your book is good, it's not up to you to decide if your book is good or not. It's up to the other people. You can think it's good all you want, or you could know it's good all you want. It's not your decision. It's the people's decision.
I want to twist that a little bit. I agree with it, but I want to twist it a little bit.
Go for it.
I think it's good depending upon who's reading it. Because what's good to one person is not good to another person sometimes. It's still
True.
art, and sometimes something's helpful to some people and other things are not helpful to other people.
True.
So just because one person says it sucks doesn't mean another person isn't going to say it's the most amazing thing in the world.
Right.
Chris, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I was just sitting here thinking, we all like, everybody, readers, and I'm talking about readers, not writers, but readers like different things. Not everybody's going to like the same thing. So I might like something of Kaufman's. I might like something of Chris is and hate something of Kaufman's. No offense. I'm just picking on you, Kaufman. But and here is a good suggestion: don't ever go on Amazon and read the comments because you will feel defeated. Once you read the first negative comment, it's like, yeah, this is not a good thing. I give up. Don't do
That's the rule of the internet itself, not just Amazon.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So real.
I mean, go into like the comments of any big author if you want to get an indication, right? Like, imagine if I went to like Brandon Sanderson's or George R. R. Martin. Actually, I went to Game of Thrones ones. 70% of it is the book's never going to come out. He's going to die before the book comes out. Those are like most of the comments.
Oh my God.
But I think for me, when I think about comments and I think about the way readers respond to our books, I personally welcome both positive and negative feedback. Now, I think it comes down to us as if we're building a brand online and our own awareness of being able to differentiate between somebody who's read the book and genuinely didn't like it, and then somebody who wants to be a troll. And I think that in the internet, that's hard to distinguish sometimes, right? But the more you put your stuff out there, the more you're inviting people from all walks of life. So I think it comes down to us to be able to distinguish, like, okay, if somebody didn't like it, why didn't they like it? Did they not like it because they read my dark fantasy book, but they hate fantasy books? I'm like, oh, why'd you read the fantasy book then? Like, that's your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
But maybe they liked it, but maybe they liked the genre, but the book didn't hit in the ways that they expected. A really interesting debate I remember doing, I want to say about 4 or 5 months ago, I did a story time series where I did a live reading of the Fourth Wing books. And I remember when I did the readings for the community, the chat was like extremely divided. I thought because they were best-selling books and they're super popular, everyone would love them. But most people who came through the community were like, Fourth Wing sucks. This is like garbage. All the author tubers I've read is like, Fourth Wing's like horrible. And I was like, well, wait, how's it such a best-selling book then? I was like, all right, well, maybe it's just the wrong audience. So I remember reading through, we did the first couple chapters, and I was expecting epic fantasy because dragons, fantasy, all right, cool. But then reading through it, it was more romantasy vibes. It was definitely much more of a romantasy. It probably gets more fantastical further into the series, I imagine, with the third book just coming out. But then I think about from the packaging perspective was if I was a reader and I was expecting a certain type of fantasy, and then I go into it and I don't get it, I'm going to think it's a bad book because my expectations weren't met. And I think that's why book covers, marketing, blurbs, all this stuff is so important. It's so important that we do it correctly. More so we're getting the right types of readers than anything else.
Well, also, I want to add that there's also a difference between readers and writer readers as well. I've noticed that people who just read it because they like reading books, they're going to have one opinion. But then I've noticed writers, when they start reading somebody else's work, they tend to tear it apart more. And they tend to notice the things that most other readers really wouldn't pick out. Mm-hmm. And either it's because of experience, which I think that's most of it, or I know like with myself growing up, learning how to write by reading the Bloody Jack series, I used to pick out the pieces that I really liked, and I try to emulate that. Mm-hmm. And that's what made me like it so much, is I was able to actually understand on a much deeper level of what exactly Meyer was saying.
See, I am a really hard person to give a critique to anything to, because I come from the entertainment industry. So I know that when something is made, it wasn't just the writer and the director and the actor in the kitchen. It was producers, it was scheduling, it was all this other stuff. So by the time it gets to my TV screen or even a book in my hands, it's like that's what they went with. Okay, cool. And I don't really like, there are things that I dislike sometimes, and I'm just like, oh, I wish they would have gone a different direction. But I'm like, wasn't my project. It's not something that I can control. So I'm just kind of like off my back, and I'm just not like, I can't do anything about it. So I'm not going to get majorly upset about it. I mean, I can, but it's not going to do anything.
Sure.
So I just sometimes just be like, well, that was their creativity. That was what they wanted. And I'm just like, all right, well, I'm going to go do mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show that when there's more, especially based on the industry, and then how you get your work out there can dictate what the end result looks like. So like, I know, especially for screenwriting, because I was in that screenwriting world for such a long period of time, that the script that gets originally pitched to an agent, a producer, whoever picks it up, is a much different beast than what actually ends up as a pilot on screen, because it goes through so many hands. It goes through so many different hands to get to that final product. And it doesn't become about the artist anymore. It becomes about whichever studio is putting money behind it, because then they need a return on their investment. For books, I imagine it's a little similar if you go through traditional publishing, because then you're making a contract with a bigger company who they need a return on their investment, which is why then if we go self-publishing, we get more of the control. I'm kind of curious, is everyone, I know we've got some self-published authors here. Are all you guys, I'd love to hear what books you've self-published so far, and if you're considering sticking with self-publishing for your next books, or if you're going to consider going indie or traditional publishing in the future.
I'm pretty much self-publishing, I think, just about everything I'm going to write. My kids' book series, I might go through indie publishing because, I mean, it's a kids' book. But beyond that, either the book itself is not meant for traditional publishing, or I'm not sure if any studio or whatever would actually want to pick it up. Because I've actually considered taking Pirates and moving it to indie publishing, but trying to find the right indie publisher that would want to pick that book up is difficult. Either because I need somebody who is LGBT inclusive, especially for a main character, or will you stop doing that? Oh, sorry, my cat was over here.
Our two mascots in the community. We got two cats with us today.
But yeah, I have to find somebody who's either inclusive with an LGBT main character, or if I can find somebody, if they actually are going to be publishing somebody else this year.
Interesting. So then your concern is like, okay, if I do go with an indie publisher, I need them to be an indie publisher that represents LGBT literature or fiction or whatever the category is, which I feel like I think there's a rise. My guess is there's a rise of indie publishers who represent obviously either LGBT or underrepresented authors and minorities. I believe there's a rise of that right now, but I'm not too familiar. I know I've had a couple guests on the podcast, but I still have to do all the research myself.
I think I looked at about 20 of them this year alone, and that's been since June.
I think I'm kind of in the same position as Chat Soul. I write LGBTQ lead characters. I made that decision a long time ago, and the self-publishing for me seems to just be what I just wish I had. I feel like I don't have time to do it. But I mean, it's not off the table to write a screenplay and actually have someone else do something, or even go traditional publishing. It's not off the table. It's just right now, that's just kind of where my heart is going right now, is self-publishing. But there's a couple stories I'm like, this is not coming out. So maybe it's just something that needs to be done later. So
I think you also have to be in the right place for it too, right? Yeah. I think if we're self-publishing, the only schedule we're on is our own. unless we've built up a commitment with the readership, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to publish one book and say, yeah, I'll publish a book in 6 months, and then it never comes out, because then you'll lose whatever readers you built up. But I think once you include the indie publisher or a traditional publisher, then you kind of end up being on someone else's timeline as well.
Mhm.
I think my guess is there's a huge interest in indie publishing because authors still retain more of the rights, but traditional publishers, you're getting more money, right? So I think it's that thing. You get more money and more probably there's more networking and attention.
That being said, though,
Mhm.
with your comment, so I've made this decision also for myself, and it's going to be a very hard decision should this day ever come. But I'm writing all these independent stuff for myself publishing, and should a studio ever decide, hey, we want to pick this up and do a movie or do a TV show or whatever,
Mhm.
I need to have a clause in my contract that says, if you guys decide to cancel this, I have all the rights back so that I can continue writing the story and finish it out, so I can give my audience the closing that it needs to have closed. So
which I think that's smart, but my guess is there's probably common clauses like that because so many shows don't last, right? So there must be something like that. Like if somebody's going to build my story, I wouldn't want them to write one season, the season's mediocre, and then it gets canceled. I think I would want to go do. I think if somebody was going to produce something, I would probably request similar rights to what someone like George R. R. Martin did with Game of Thrones, and try to request a certain level of creative control or creative say for things that get made. I recognize it can't just be myself; it's a team, but I think I would still need a certain level of involvement to at least be able to make sure, okay, that the core story can still come to life.
And I agree with that. And I will still, like, when it goes to a different medium, I will, add cooks into the kitchen. But just like how many people, as far as we've seen, I mean, there's a couple of them, I guess, but we've never really actually seen a creator having a show be canceled and then have like the books not be done or the show not be done. And they're just like, they never go back to it. So I just know for me, I would want to have closure, and I would try to figure out a way to do that closing story or in a book form, but I would want it all back to me so that I can kind of pick up where we left off.
That totally makes sense.
Whether or not that happens or not, but I don't know. But that's the dream if it ever happens. But also the dream is to have it made and have it be a complete story in that. But yeah, if just I would like to have the rights back in case they decide that it's not profitable to them, because I know that there's a lot of people who would like to have closure, and that's what I would.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's a hard thing once we get it passed out to other people. It goes back to your cooks in the kitchen comment, Chris. I think there's also a certain level of realism when we include other people, right? And it kind of ends up becoming that trade-off for money. So like, we have this work, now we've sold it because now we're going to get X amount of money for it to be put out there. But that trade-off for us to try to make a living going that route means that we have to give up a certain level of creative control. And whether or not that's 100% or whether that's smaller depends on the route.
And that's why I said it would be a very, very hard thing to do if I have to turn down the contract.
I'll trust. I'm sure this is something that like all writers face, right? Especially like the first contract. Somebody wants a company wants to offer you X amount of money for your work. That's probably why many new writers, screenwriters, new authors get lowballed a lot, because like, come on, if a big company, one of the big companies offers you a contract and it's a decent amount of money, you're like, all right, that's looks great, but for them, that's like a small thing on their actual return on investment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think if I got offered a contract, I'd probably have make sure to hire the right legal perspective, because like certain things I don't have the expertise on, and I don't want to get taken advantage of.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So definitely this is a really, really great conversation. I know earlier I posed a really great question to the chat about mottos. And I know, let's see, we got a couple of responses. I know Marta said, nothing happens without a reason. Yeah, and that goes between that the destiny versus fate, right? I'm like, everything's predetermined, which everything's predetermined. Nothing you do makes any difference because it's going to happen anyways, as compared to all of your actions create your own destiny. And I think that's that argument that I've definitely had before.
I'm in the middle of that. But
You're kind of in the middle. Yeah, I was like, I kind of go back and forth on how I feel. I guess I feel that all of my actions do have weight. I don't know if I prescribe to alternate reality theory or not. It's interesting.
So there's a TV show that was back in like the 2000s. It was called Hex. It was in British area.
Okay.
Rumor has it was supposed to be the British Buffy or something. I don't know, but it wasn't. But anyway, I loved the show. But so the lead character is someone who actually gets pregnant from a demon. And she's asking she's in college and she's asking the professor, do you believe in destiny? And the professor says, well, I don't necessarily I believe that we all have choices, but whatever those choices are will lead us down a path that's already chosen for us. But it also depends on where you end up on that path. So for instance, if you are on this path to go this way and you say you're given an opportunity, I can go be an actor or I can go be a writer, then that's predetermined, but you have the decision to go, oh, I'm going to go be an actor instead. So you can go on a whole different thing and go on a whole different journey this way. And then you can get to another fork but that's already predetermined. You can go on an actor situation and then you can get to another fork and be like, well, I'm going to go have a family or I'm going to go into marketing or whatever you decide to do. And then but that point was predetermined. It just depends on what path you decide to take. So it's sort of the
oh yeah, I kind of see. So I see how you're saying. So you're in that middle path where your choices do have merit, but all of your choices are still set. They're still set points regardless.
Almost like a pachinko machine too.
And I think Marta brought up a good point, right? So this is Coke versus Pepsi. So then in this theory, you choose, am I going to drink Coca-Cola? Am I going to drink Pepsi? Chris, based on your theory, my decision, I'm going to make that decision to drink Coke, but I could also make that decision to drink Pepsi. So then do both options exist? Is there a reality where I'm like, all right, I'm a Pepsi drinker, and then a reality where I'm a Coke drinker?
I don't know about the separate realities, but I do think that there is if you did choose one or the other, they're both valid. They're both valid choices. They're both valid worlds. They're both valid paths. I don't know whether you decide to go Coke and then if there's a Pepsi version of you. I don't know about that. That's Marvel situation stuff, and it gives me a headache. I'm not even going to touch any of that stuff. We all know that there's a bunch of but we all think that there's different realities and stuff. And
yeah, there's definitely realities. There's a reality where we are having this conversation, and then where we're not having this conversation.
Right. But it gives
a reality where we're talking about this here, and then a reality where things just get changed like that.
But it gives me a headache, so I'm just gonna. You've made the decision to have Pepsi. So let's just go with that. And there was probably a version of you that did do Coke, but let's not like that one you didn't take. So it's that maybe it's thrown away. Maybe it's in the trash. Maybe it's done. I don't know. But it just gives me a headache.
Oh man. Well, that is definitely another really good motto. I know John threw up a motto earlier as well. John was saying, my motto, plot in the head, pants are on page. Pull all your hair out and know why authors drink when trying to patch in and fix what you forgot because you didn't write out the plot in your head. Oof, man. Who doesn't deal with that when you come up with this really cool idea and you just don't write it down? Or maybe you're writing down things and then you lose ideas. Does this ever happen to you guys where you
the first part has happened to me.
Really?
Yeah.
I could justify still.
Or if you're like me and write down, say like 1,000 words and then erase it and then rewrite it and erase it and rewrite it and erase it. Because you are bipolar as crap and cannot make your mind up.
Oh,
Which I
that
am.
sucks because then you potentially might lose some good work though. Like that's the thing that
Yeah.
sucks. You might potentially lose some good stuff.
I am constantly rewriting, but I never like completely erase stuff. Like I'll take it and copy and paste it on a different page because I'm like, that's kind of good. I'm on to something there. I'm cooking somewhere. Let me cook for a minute. And but it just needs like a put it off to the side and I'll come back to it. Or maybe I'll rewrite it a different way. Like I feel like I'm they say kill your darlings or whatever, but I can't because it has to, I keep it somewhere.
How many of you do that, but then go back to the original 25 versions later?
That has definitely happened to me. You're like, there's a problem here. I need to fix it. This next one, all right, maybe it's a little better. Fix it. 25 things later, you're like, yeah, the original.
Yeah, the original was the best.
That's happened to me a few times, Chris, especially I know in some of the streams this past year, I did a couple of rewrites of certain scenes. And then I'm like, yeah, it's not working. It's just not working.
Chris, you literally just described me. Just saying.
It's a TikTok meme that happens a lot. A lot of writers do that, but I haven't made that video yet. But it's there all the time.
All right, so we know what the next video, Chris, you're coming out with. Gotcha. All right.
I have to admit, I don't lose my ideas. I don't lose them, and I don't really like go back to previous versions. Sometimes because in the case of Pirates, that would have probably bordered on plagiarism. But most of my ideas, once I actually get them down, I have general ideas for them, and then I flesh them out as I go. I got to admit, Pirates was actually the only thing I think I've actually ever truthfully outlined that isn't a fan fiction. And with fan fiction, it's only been the last couple ones.
Okay.
Mainly one of my latest ones that I'm still trying to work on based off a song. But most of them, I'm just be doing dishes or laundry or something, and I was like, wait a minute, this actually sounds like a really good idea. 10 weeks later, I've actually done this. So this is actually like a good example. 10 weeks later, I still remembered it, and I sat down and I wrote it. And it actually worked out to be one of my best
actually being able to like hold on to it.
Yeah.
And then being able to go with it. That's really good.
Yeah, my kind of thing with that is if the idea stays for more than 5 minutes, it's worth considering. If it stays for more than 20 minutes, it's worth actually trying to think, will this work as a story, and should it be a fan fiction? Should it be a new book? What is it going to be? And if I can think of it 5 days later, I know that's a huge jump, 20 minutes to 5 days, then I actually sit down and write it. That's how most of my fan fictions have actually come out. It took me 10 minutes to actually make the entire storyline, or most of it. And 3 days later, I have most of it written. And I don't really lose the ideas if they have any kind of merit. I think the only one I ever truthfully scrapped, and I don't mean like change it and like make it something different. Like, I have the original as a baseline. I think the only time I ever scrapped something was, the original version of Transfer. That actually bordered onto slavery, and I was not comfortable with that, so I completely scrapped that. It would have worked in the original storyline, but it was a bit dark even for me, so I'm just like, I don't want to make a lot of people mad with this. Yeah, and I mean that's hard because there's certain topics that we might take on, which are obviously more sensitive, like obviously like slavery. Like I wouldn't even know how to go about that. And we know how the internet is. People are very opinionated, so people will always take two sides on very polarizing issues. So it's like if you're going to write something which is potentially more which could be more polarizing, you have to be aware of how people are probably going to respond. Yeah, and I mean that was, and that's not the intention. If that's like a side thing, then like you don't want that to take focus away from the core story. Right. I mean, honestly, the whole idea, I have to admit, would have worked. It actually would have worked beautifully because it wasn't meant to stay like that. It was supposed to, that whole thing ends. But it was just uncomfortable enough to the point it's like, okay, no, I can't do this, because if it makes me uncomfortable and then I write this and I publish it, am I going to be under a lot of fire? So that is literally the only idea I ever scrapped, but it did lead into something else, which is turning out even better.
That makes sense.
I was writing this version of this, one of my short stories that I'm working on now. Excuse me, and I won't talk about it too much because it is a little dark and weird. But I remember looking at it one day and being like, maybe I should try something else because this is a bit much even for me.
You know, it's like me with my memoir, which I've scrapped for now. Still gonna do, but I've put it on the back burner for now. Like there's gonna be things in it that are gonna be like, holy crap, like that is some hardcore crap.
Yeah, but you also got to think though, the genre can also make a huge difference.
I agree.
Yes,
but I think genre is only a factor because genre is just determining what the category is. Yeah. It's really understanding the reader. What are the reader's expectations from your genre, subgenre, and the type of book?
And like we said earlier, you know, not everybody likes, you know, the same thing. You know, what I might like, Jared may not like, or, you know, whatever. Or even Chris. I'm going to pick on Chris for a second. He's like, okay. But anyway, I think it's really more just a follow your heart kind of thing. Like whatever you're interested in, write. If you're not interested in it, don't do it.
And this also comes down to our goals, right? Like, what are our goals as a writer?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I think for me personally, I have very competing priorities. I know one goal is I just want to tell a phenomenal story. I want it to be one of the best, straightforward action adventure stories. I want people to be surprised. I want there to be plot things, characters they love, and the whole shebang. That's also in contrast to, I also want to be able to make a living off of my writing so I can do more of what I love, which this happens to a lot of writers. So then you have to balance write what I love, but then also grow a readership. So I think trying to understand the balance between the two can be monumental in the long term. And you can do both, but you have to be willing to understand whereas that line between what I love, but then also what readers want.
In a similar vein to what Bobby was just talking about, I've noticed with me specifically, I'm working on 2 short stories right now for 2 separate projects, and the one that's closer to finished is the one I'm more interested in writing, only because it's more polished. And I'm like, okay, I'm happier with this version of this story, so like I'm more willing to work on it. I have like I put all the work in, I put, you know, all this effort into it. And this other one, I'm like, it's like a half-baked cake. And I'm like, it's like sad. I'm like, okay, I like it, but like, it's not, I want to write it, but it's just not, it's not where this one's at. So
relatable.
I don't know, it's getting it out.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just going to say the same thing. Because, like with my memoir, just real quick, like I said, there's going to be some crap in there that you're going to be like, wait, what? And then, you know, of course you're going to have that with any book, but memoirs are a little bit different. So, because, I mean, you're basically doing a, you know, tell-all, if you will. Because you're pretty much, you know, telling pretty much every detail of your life. But you have to think, what are readers more interested in when it comes to such and such genre? Not just memoirs, but in general. You know, what are they going to be more interested in from me or from Jared or Chris or Chat Soul or, you know, whatever. But I think another big piece of advice I would give is once you get a passion for something, don't lose it, because we all have an artist's side in us, whether we write, paint, whatever. It's just writing is a different form of art. It's just putting words to paper, or typing on a keyboard, if you will. But don't. I know everybody's thinking, "What are you talking about?" But don't give up, because your work will benefit. You will benefit from your work, because someone will find your work and they will think, they'll read something from it and they'll be like, wow, I needed that. I needed that.
Mhm.
So, my encouragement to all of you all and anyone else watching that is not on the camera with us is don't give up. Because even though, like we said earlier, we judge our own work, which, that's natural. But you should let others judge it, I guess, in a way, is what I'm trying to say. Because it's really what they like rather than what you like. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Bobby, what I really like about that is that we have to understand at our core why we write. And I think the difficult part about being a writer, or about even becoming an author, or even a professional author in the long term, is that writing a book takes time and it's a process. There was a reason that I remember one of my more popular streams this year, when I did the research for this article, when I learned that 97% of new writers never finish writing their first book. And I remember when I read that, I was so surprised. But I'm like, okay, now after I've talked with like thousands of writers this year, I'm like, okay, that actually does kind of make sense. I'm like, well, why do so many writers never finish writing their first book? Because I think most people get passionate in the beginning about ideas, the characters, the worlds, the plot, the things that like they're motivated about. They start, and then for whatever reason, they stop. Whether that's maybe they don't have the skill, maybe something, a motivation. How do you write? How do you spend so much time writing a book when it's when you also have to balance that with paying bills and dealing with school, relationships, life, health, all the other things, and then the book's not even making money, right? So then it's balancing that out. So if you don't have that passion for it, you get burnt out on that originally. And I think this actually also speaks to Chris, our mottos in the beginning, right? Where I'm like, if you don't feel like writing, write now. But your was like, give yourself that mental health that you need, be willing to take breaks. And I think I always try to find that balance between the two, because I think this, from just my own personal experience, there was years where I got distracted and I didn't write at all, because I was lost motivation. I was busy with work. I was busy with all the things. And then there's times where I did write, and I think it just depended on what my motivation, where I was at. So I think this comes down to where we are at in our lives. If you look at yourself in the mirror and you're making excuses, right? You're sitting down, you would rather go stream Netflix than write a book, and you haven't written for months, maybe you're just not that passionate about writing. But if you've been dealing with crises, like if you've been dealing with health emergencies, if you've been dealing with work, and you've been trying to put writing into that 5 hours that you just don't have the energy for right now, then Chris, like you were saying, like you need to give yourself time, right? You do need to take a break. Writing takes energy. I think it's, the fact is we don't give ourselves enough energy. We don't give ourselves enough consideration that writing like takes a part of ourselves. Even though we're sitting down in front of doing whatever, writing takes a good part of ourselves.
I'm going to say this from experience, since it took me nearly 20 years to write my first book. I started it when I was 12. And granted, it wasn't until last year that I actually had the final version of it.
Mm-hmm.
I could have written that before I even graduated high school if I hadn't been dealing with so much crap. Crazy knows what I went through. Granted, there's probably a few things that even he's in the dark about, but he knows pretty much what I went through, and it was hell. There was no way I had the energy, the mental energy to go through with that, to deal with writing my book with everything that was going on. And it wasn't until, again, with my husband shaming me into it, that I was actually in a good mental health space to actually sit down and be like, I'm going to write this and nothing's going to stop me. Might have taken me 19 years to do that, but the fact is I got there because I waited until I was in a better space.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And I think it's understanding yourself, because this goes in line with what WTC was saying, with imposter syndrome does play a role in a lot of people not finishing because they don't think their book is good enough. This is why I always try to encourage people, understand what's holding you back. If you're losing motivation because you don't know how to write the dialogue, or you don't know how to do the characters or the plot or whatever, like, you can teach yourself that skill one day at a time and spend years. But if you're losing motivation because you just don't have the energy, or like your life just is in a bad place, like, understand where you're at. And I think there's that certain level of self-awareness that is required. I'm pretty sure the average age, last I looked, of authors tends to be mid-30s. I think the average age of a first-time author is mid-30s.
So I'm not that far behind. Awesome.
Exactly.
Me either. I'm almost 31.
32.
And of course, there's like different. Of course, there's always going to be different. Not everyone fits into the average, right? We'll see those once in a while. There's the teenagers who publish a book. The Aragon, what was that? Christopher Paolini, I think. Well, those younger writers. Then we see the older writers, 50s, 60s. They publish their books. They become bestsellers. There's always we don't have to be in their 30s to start it, but I think the reason that's an average is because of self-awareness and maturity, and that usually takes a little bit of life experience.
I mean, look at Stephen King's books. He published back in the 70s, but or something like that. I don't know how old he is now, but I'm sure he was around my age, around that time. If he is the age that I'm thinking that he is, which is whatever.
I half wonder if he's like having a ghostwriter do it, and he's just slapping his name on it.
He does. So big authors like that, they do hit a point in their career when they're ghostwriting. So I think with Stephen King, he was very consistent in his early part of his career. I know I've done a little research on Stephen King before. I don't read too much Stephen King things, but I do love horror, so I've seen a lot of the adaptations. But what I do know from his career is that he was consistent. I want to say Carrie was one of his first initial claim to fame, I believe, his early career. He now has almost, I think it's like 100 books published under his name. But this is what a lot of authors do, right? And this should be the goal. Once you hit a certain point, you can still hire other people to write books in the series or books in your world where you can franchise them out, but you're still working with them. Big authors will usually do that through traditional publishing companies. So that way they can still produce the same consistency.
Okay, he is actually the age that I thought he was, which is really creepy to think. Because I thought he was a little bit younger than that, but he is actually 77 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
He's been writing for like 30, 40, 50 years, whatever. But
yeah, and then I mean, even from what WTC was saying, like I know we have a lot of writers. Everybody writes at different paces. WTC was saying it took my wife so many years to publish her first book. I was different in that I wrote and published my book within a year. I've never been one to hesitate things. That can be a good or a bad thing, as I've failed many times over the years, but I never let it stopped me. Marta was saying, I'm shocked when I hear people needed 20 years for one book. Writing mine took 9 months. And I know each of us write things at a different pace, right? I know, Sol, you said that it took you 19 years to get your book out. And I think it goes to show that at the end of the day, the only person that we can compare ourselves against is ourselves. I think a lot of times we end up unintentionally through social media algorithms, we unintentionally compare ourselves to others. But the problem is we compare ourselves to the snapshot of where that person is in their current state in life. We don't take into consideration the last 5 years or the 10 years or all the trauma and hardship they went through that is off screen that they don't talk about.
Something that's helped me on my even spiritual journey is just understanding that everyone's on their own journey and you're on your own path. Where they're at for their journey is where they're at for their journey. You need to just more pay attention to yours. Don't compare.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of what's helped me a little bit, at least stay a little bit more grounded in whatever I'm trying to do. But I'm still jealous.
I mean, I think
You stole the words right out of my mouth, Chris.
Well, writing's a lifelong journey, right? That's why I do not consider myself an expert or a master or anything. I feel like I'm always just going to be a student of writing. I feel like I'm always going to be learning. I'm always going to be a student, and like I'll probably be writing until I'm 80s, 90s, and I'll still be learning. And I think that's the kind of approach where we will always be learning new things. And I think that's a healthy approach.
Be a forever learner. That's what I've figured out. So.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, for to even go with even starting my series, let alone took about gosh, I want to say about like almost 10 years, because it's not that I would write it and edit it. It would all just be like, for instance, my thoughts about it the first time, back to like original, what you wrote original or your thoughts originally about something, it was completely different from what I'm writing now. Like there was no such thing as what I have now of like, well, there was still vampires, but there wasn't anything about werewolves or angels or aliens or anything like that. Had nothing to do with any of that. And now, after like many years of thinking like, okay, I kind of like where this is going, but I don't like where this is going. The characters are still there, but they're just different from what I originally thought of them. You know, except for Raziel, of course, him being the only one that's stayed the same pretty much. But everyone else went completely different from where I originally had the thoughts of them of.
I like Penelope's comment. Penelope, you're like, I might be decent at writing by my 90s. Like, it's okay. I will only allow people to consider me an expert after I've passed away. Then I'll be like, okay, cool. Now I've gone through my life.
Check out what WTT just said.
Let's see, like what? Oh, that's funny. Penelope's like, I'm in disguise. Yeah, so I mean, I think this is a great conversation to have, and I think we're all at different journeys in our writing career. I think for so many years, I personally thought that I was a failure as a writer, and I think a lot of people probably feel this way because at that stage in my life, I wasn't publishing things and I wasn't getting things optioned or put on screen. So I thought that because it wasn't getting put in that published or screen format, that I was a failure. It took me many years to understand myself well enough and be all right that I was learning and working on my craft. So that way, now at this stage in my life, I feel comfortable talking about all the things because I've spent the last 25 years of my life working and improving. And like, I know it's the thing that I love.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
I have a topic if we are moving on to a different topic, but I'm going to let you be the moderator.
Absolutely. So we got a couple more minutes before we hop into a writing sprint. Chris, what was on your mind?
Oh, it was what I kind of emailed you about. I wanted to ask all you guys about, like, what do you guys think about writing structures?
Like, how do you mean exactly?
You're probably talking about like 3-act,
hero's journey, saves the cat. Do you use them? Do you like them? Do you not like them? I do understand that a lot of writers think that they're predictable. However, I feel like that you can use the structure to give it a start, but then you can not have a beat or skip one or switch them around. It doesn't have to be the exact order that they are actually put in. And I just kind of wanted to know what everyone else's thoughts are, because I'm actually putting together a heroine's journey kind of stuff right now, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. I'm making some tarot spreads for it, and so I'm just trying to. I just don't know what to do with it. But I wanted to. So far, what I've talked to with other writers that are in my own world, they said that I'm on the right track. I've made like a little outline, a beat outline kind of a thing. And I just kind of want to know what everyone else's thoughts are on writing structures in general.
I love that, Chris. This is a great conversation to have. So I know a number of you guys use writing structures. I know for me personally, my writing structure is I've combined 3 popular writing structures, 3-act structure, Save the Cat, and Hero's Journey, and then created my own, which goes in my own process. And I think I've just distilled it into something that comes inherently to me. Like I know how to plot out things very, very well. So for me, plotting has never been an issue, but I know for a lot of writers, they embark on telling these stories and then they either get too focused on the writing structure and they're like, oh, I missed a beat, something's wrong, or they don't focus on it enough. And then you go to edit stuff and then things don't make sense. So I think for a writing structure, I think it's a little different for everyone. I'm of the belief everybody should use some type of structure to start out with for their early stories. Even if you're a pantser, you can be a pantser, but I think you still need to have some type of indication of how your character is going to get from point A to point B. You don't have to, but what happens is in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th draft, one of your character arcs don't make sense because you're trying to balance 10 character arcs and then you don't know how to fix it. And then you start dealing with the relationship breakup and then you lose motivation and then you stop writing for a year. Yeah. I am always of the mindset, like try to make the process, which as long as easy as possible, because I want people to finish their books.
I think people should use a structure in the beginning when they're first learning to write, when they're doing their first 2 stories. But then, after that, I think they need to try to find their own style. Even if they're still using a 3-act structure, find a variation that works for you. I know, like for myself, Pirates started out as a 3-act structure. It did not end that way. It started out that way when I first started writing it, and then it's like, wait a minute. There is way too much going on in book 1. I need to split it into 3 different parts. So each book is actually in 3 different parts. Each of them have titles that end up tying into the book's name. I actually ended up using, you'd almost call it a 9-act structure, I'd almost call it, because there's the beginning, there's the middle of it, and then there's the end of the act. And then it repeats for the 2nd act, and then it repeats for the 3rd act. But then there's an epilogue tacked on the end, which goes outside of that. Part of it might have just been length, but it's also kind of turning into my own style. I started noticing that with my fan fictions. They all kind of follow that. There's the beginning, there's the middle point, but then suddenly it splits off, and there's like 4 different kinds of structure things going on in the end. So I might start out with the 1st act, the 2nd act, but I'd almost call it a flower because it's one straight line and then it just blooms out.
It's actually kind of interesting. And it sounds like 3-act structure is the most popular here in this community. WTC is I use the 3-act structure with a 40-chapter outline. Penelope is like in poetry. Main 2 types are form or freestyle. Formal poetry, haiku, sonnet, venel, poetry with rules, and it's fantastic. If you know what you want to say but are having trouble with how. My wife uses 5-act structure. ML is like I use 3-act, 9 block. So I'm pretty sure that my guess is that's probably just breaking up each act into certain beats. But that would just be a guess.
That's what I just asked, and I was like, wait, and then I did math, and I was like, oh, no, I get it.
That's how Pirates ended up being. It was Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, repeat for 3 parts, and then have another kind of act tacked on the end.
But I think that, so like what you said, I think that's a good call out though. I think beginners should use structure, but you have to recognize that structure, like everything else in writing, is a tool. If you want to, and this, like I'll come from this as an editor, if you want to use parentheses, if you want to use ellipses, if you want to use the things that are not used as much, you can use them. But like everything else, it's a tool. Structure, it's a tool. In the beginning, you have to rely on it more because you don't understand the storytelling structure. But when you've been writing long enough, you can understand, oh, through X structure, I'm missing 2 beats because those beats don't have to be there because those beats don't serve this specific character journey.
Yeah.
And I think that's just an intrinsic thing that comes from the writer's journey over time, especially based on the type of story that writers want to tell.
You know, actually, this actually just made me realize something. I think that's why I'm having so much trouble with one of my fan fictions, because it started following a structure and it immediately fell apart once it actually hit a certain beat. And now I'm just kind of sitting here with it like, the hell am I doing? I know it's supposed to happen eventually, but I'm not sure how to get there now.
Yeah, I use a similar structure to what Emil uses. There's a YouTuber, her name is Kat O'Keefe, and she has like a 27 block.
Yeah, I've checked her thing
and so I would use that from time to time. And then as I started writing more, I would find myself being like, my story doesn't fit in the structure. I don't know what to do. So I kind of stopped using the structure and finding myself, honestly, just kind of puzzle piecing my stories together and figuring out where things go. It's more of a, I don't know, DIY. I don't know how to describe it, but it feels very
different.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a structure. It's a little bit messier than a structure, but it helps me figure out where all the story beats go. I don't know.
I almost call it a scaffold.
Yeah,
something that's temporary, but not quite a structure.
Okay, yeah.
So where this was kind of coming from is I was studying again the heroine's journey, and I learned that I got books, and it's just more of like the hero's journey is very masculine, whereas the heroine's journey is more feminine. So I was kind of coming from more of a collective community aspect for a writing.
So is it, when you think about the heroine's journey, is it more focused on a female centric protagonist, or is it more focused on the emotional, more of like an emotional journey as compared to hero's journey tends to be more literal? Hero goes to the cave, hero grabs the sword. Like hero's journey is very, very a physical.
Yeah.
Chris, if you you're more than welcome if you want to share anything on screen, if you wanted feedback on anything, because I know we were talking about heroine's journey before. Have you come up with like a format for it yet? Or are you still kind of?
I mean, I have it a little bit. Let me see what I've got here. I had it at some point. I wasn't expecting to share.
I know. I totally put you on the spot. I always love playing around with structures and playing around with different tools. It's like everything else. I believe all tools can be effective. It just comes down to the what the intent of it is.
Why don't I look for it? Well, there we go. Found it. Got it. So then if I do this.
And then there should be an option at the bottom of the screen that says screen share.
Okay, let's see. I have mute, stop cam, settings, present, and leave studio.
Present.
Oh, present.
There you go.
Video,
that's always a learning.
PDF. This one. Go to my computer.
Yeah, so you can either do the PDF to download it straight to the studio and share it, or you can share the screen, and the share screen will just show your screen.
Oh, well, hold on.
Which is interesting.
Share my screen. What? Okay, share my screen. And I want to, show this one first, I guess. We'll just do that. This is just my stream. This is just my website, but we can go here and do all the way down on the bottom, all of my different files, because I am not organized at all. This one.
It's good. I totally put you on the spot for it too.
So this is kind of what I've created. So essentially what the heroine's journey is like the hero's journey is very masculine. I have to defeat the bad guy. This is my journey. I have to, it always ends up being the good guy versus bad guy, and they have to defeat each other, kind of a thing. With the heroine's journey, it's more about compromise at the end and a little bit more about community. With the hero, he is stronger when he's alone. For the heroine, she is strongest when she's with people. So it's a little bit of the opposite. So for the act, I made it into a 3-act structure here. And I've used these different books to kind of create this. And so we've got, at the very beginning, it's the female, or the main character.
And then Chris, just so you know, right now we only see your website on page. Do you have this structure? Yeah, I was like, I don't think that's what he's pointing towards.
How do I do this? Why is it not showing up then?
Let's see.
Are you showing the right screen?
Because it's open on my screen.
Yeah, so, but like, is it a completely different screen from your from what you've got up? Because
yeah. So how about this, guys? Well, Chris, what I'll do is we'll troubleshoot it and we'll let you pull it up on screen. In the meantime, let's hop into Writing Sprint, and then we can hop back into that. That way, we'll show you how to do it because Sol and I have both had to go through this many times before.
Yeah, that was very interesting. I don't know, but.
So what we'll do is we'll continue the conversation because I'm actually really curious to see the heroine's journey. But first, let's hop into a writing sprint. Let's see, I got to pull up my Z pictures here on screen. Make sure I got the cool background pictures.
This will be good because I actually haven't written more than like 5 words in 3 days.
I have so much I have to get done tonight, so I'm like, oh, I gotta log in.
Well, Tiara, if you need motivation, we know Sol's the one to be up against.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure anyone could beat me tonight. I have just been so out of it with my writing lately.
I've been so tired lately.
All right, perfect. So I think I got the screen all set up. Here's this. What I'm going to do is with our timing today, I'm going to do one writing sprint for us, just with where we're at on timing. I might have to call it a few minutes early. So we'll do a 25-minute writing sprint. Let me pull this up here. So we'll do a 25-minute writing sprint. I will throw up, there we go. 25-minute writing sprint. So whether you're brainstorming, writing, or editing, that's all part of the process. Come join us. I'll throw up some music, and then we will get back into some more writers chat. We'll check out the heroine's journey with Chris when we get back, and we'll see what craziness we can get into. The question I posed to you is, who can get the most words? Can you beat Chat Soul? It will not be me today, but we'll see who can do it. Maybe Tiara. I believe in you, Tiara. All right, my friend. So 25 minutes on the clock, and it's time to write now. All right. And that is the sprint. So we made it through that 30-minute, 25-minute sprint. Were you able to get your word count in? Were you able to make some progress? We're going to put it up against the other writers and see what we were able to do. But first, if you're enjoying the stream, follow and subscribe. I'm here every day with the Right Now community. 353 streams and counting. Oof, man, almost at 366. We'll see. But if you're looking for author interviews, writing tips, writing tricks, motivation, other writers to procrastinate with, or maybe some cool writing events, then you've come to the right place. So tap those buttons and you'll be alerted when we go live. All right, so I wanted to get the subscribe ad there. Let me bring up my friends. Welcome back, guys. So how did that writing sprint treat all y'all?
A lot better than I expected.
Okay, so 2,000 words. So
No,
like,
it was not that many. Only 740 this time.
Nice. Well, I didn't get any writing done. I'm doing all planning. I'm like planning and logistics stuff right now. So, but I didn't even try.
I don't
Tiara,
even. I'm trying to find where my word count is, but I can't find it in Pages. I don't know where it is. I got a page, like almost 1 page in. So
Okay.
Try finding a
nice.
review if you're using Word.
I'm using Pages. It's on Mac. So I've
There
got.
is a way. I don't use.
There is a way. I've done
it.
it before. I just don't know where it is.
I know. I'm like the same way. I'm like not used to tracking my word count. And then I was doing it through an online program. I'm like, wow, the online programs make it really easy.
I got 264 words.
Nice. Well, you definitely beat me, Tiara.
Let's do this. I can tell you what my word count is. We're going to go into Drive, and we're just going to fake it because obviously that's Pages is being stupid right now.
Scrivener hasn't been counting my words either. Like I definitely have 3,000 words in here, but like my current word count, it says 0, and I'm like, okay.
Word did that for me. Word did that for me for a little while. It just wasn't counting the total words I had.
Yeah.
It wasn't even counting the pages for some reason. It was some bug in the program. It got
That's
updated.
so weird.
I got
come here.
530 words.
Well, okay, wait. So, Chris, you got 530, and then Tiara, how much did you get? You said 230.
Who, me?
Yeah, Tiara, how much did you get again? You said 230, right?
264, I think. Yeah, 264.
So I think you guys combined to beat Chatsoul. I guess this is going to become the new question, right? How many writers does it take to beat Chatsoul?
Hey, find me on a good day when I'm actually not getting distracted. I could have had 1,000.
Isn't their goal to try to beat you on a not good day? You're like, yeah, try to beat me on a good day. You'll only have to beat 3,000 words. But I love it, right? And this is all fun and games because I think once again, obviously, even though this is fun and games, the goal is how just to write. Right? That's the point of it, right?
Just
to write.
Not. I
try
suck.
to make some progress.
I'm horrible. No, I'm not good. No, just kidding.
Like, I suck at writing. Worst 250 words. Delete.
Not 500. No, I'm not good at all. Someone else was better than me.
And it looks like in the chat, Megan got 468 words. Nice job, Megan. You were well combined. You guys all definitely beat Chatsoul. So unfortunately, Soul, you've just become like the boss, the boss monster, the boss figure of the word counts.
Oh, that's just funny.
I know, right? Oh man, but I absolutely love it. I know I didn't even try. I personally have a little too much to do working on my end with prep for the WriteNow-a-thon, client work, and I just don't even have time to work on Scarecrow as much as I wish I did. I was happy. I did almost reach the end of Act 1 yesterday, so I'm very happy I hit kind of that like milestone and realizing like, okay, first part of the book I feel is in a good place now. Yeah, so I was pretty happy with it. But so for the conversation we were starting to get into earlier, Chris, I know we were talking about the heroine's journey. I know we still have a couple minutes left. What were you able to pull it up on your screen?
Yes.
All right, let's see what we got here, because I think talking about writing structure is very, very cool. So those of us just joining in the conversation, Chris, I know you're just working on putting together your own writing structure outline called The Heroine's Journey. So, and this is what you have for your structure so far, right?
Yes. So just FYI for everyone who's like just now catching up. I've somehow fallen into the heroine's journey a couple of weeks ago. I was looking for, so I run a writing community on my own website where we kind of use tarot cards to tell our stories. And shut up, phone. And so I've kind of broken up writing structures like the hero's journey and Save the Cat into weekly writing prompts, so that the writers are not focusing on the entire story, and they're learning tarot at the same time. I ran into the heroine's journey and I started reading. This is the hero's journey, but I read books about all. This is the reversals from tarot and the heroine's journey, and it's a story structure I can't really seem to find as solidified as the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is there's a specific amount of beats depending on what version you use, but it's basically taking the hero from from the beginning to an end, and it's usually very masculine, very violent, and the hero is strongest when he's alone, and it's usually ending with the hero versus the villain kind of headbutting, and one defeats the other. With the heroine's journey, it's a lot more community-based. So she is strongest when she is with a community around her, and the ending is not about her having fame and glory. It's more about compromise and how do we take society forward, kind of a thing. And so in going through this heroine's journey here, there's some beats in here, but this is more about what women experience in real life, how they are brought up in a masculine world and they lose access to their femininity. And then the heroine's journey here goes into how Harry Potter is a heroine's journey. Twilight is a heroine's journey. She doesn't say this in here because I just realized this, but the Maze Runner is a heroine's journey. Power Rangers is a heroine's journey. Charmed is a heroine's journey. So it's just kind of like, it's more about community, not about the one guy versus the end kind of a thing. So what I'm doing now, so what I'm doing here is I'm kind of I've taken these books and taken these tarot reversals and stuff and kind of created my own, kind of like what you said earlier, Jared, about you kind of combined your own, all your one. So what I've done here is I've basically created my own heroine's journey guideline, and I'm doing it with tarot cards. So like we've got the 3-act structure. We got Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and at the beginning, it's a lot of people can use this heroine's journey as in Demeter, Persephone, and Hades. So it's Demeter's story. She has, Persephone's taken down to Hades outside of Demeter's control. And so when Demeter goes to all the gods and says, "Hey, where's my daughter?" They're all like, "I don't know. What do you want? I didn't see anything," kind of a thing. So at the very beginning here, we have a heroine who she has a broken family. I can't even say that word. A broken network. And so it's this cat. I have a spread where you can create a broken family. And the inciting incident is something it's this involuntary withdrawal. It happens outside of her control. So that's Hades taking Persephone away. So then she goes to her, her Greek gods, and she's like, "Hey, I need help." They're like, "I can't help you." And then that's when Demeter was like, "Well, fine. If you guys can't help me, none of you guys get summer anymore. And I'm going to go, you guys all get winter and everyone's going to get sick and all this kind of stuff." So I go into Act 2. She's now left her what she knows. She's trying to find her daughter. How do I scroll this? I don't even know how I scrolled this now. Can I do this? Does that work?
Yep.
Did it scroll?
Nope.
Dang it.
Oh
Okay.
no.
Okay. Well, anyway. Oh,
we
wait.
don't get Act 3. This is it.
All right. Well, anyway, so I'll just explain the rest of it. So anyway, so with Act 2, she's now going off on her own, and she has to find a mask against herself because now she can't be who she is, and she needs to find a way to protect herself in this new world. So what I've done is I've created on number 8 here, we have a road of trials where it's just kind of like it's a spread to where you can kind of outline 4 or 5 different trials of what your character can go through in the middle. Kind of a thing. And then you've got number 9 is who does your character meet? It's the cast. It's a new cast of people, the people who are going to help her and create her new sense of community. And then number 10, you've got, I broke it up. I added something here to where the enemy scenes, it's the broken family POV. So these are the people from Act 1, just to kind of see what they're up to. What are their plans? What is going on with all of that situation? And then 11 down here, we've got identify with the masculine and success of an illusion. So it's like she has this, now she's met these new allies. She has this positive feeling that she can kind of get more in tune with her feminine side, kind of a thing. Let's see if I did this, I'm going to do this. If I stop sharing, and then if I share again, and I do the window.
Trying to get the end of it correctly, right?
Yes, I'm trying to get the end of it. How do I? Okay, if I do that, let's try that. Is this going to work? Yeah, no. Wait, is it? Did it work? No.
Nope.
Damn it, no.
It was nice try.
Okay, so anyway, I'm going to just, since we're short on time.
There we go.
Oh, wait, it's scrolling now.
Oh, it's scrolling now. Okay, cool. Awesome. Oh, I'll just do that. So then we here have at number 11, that's her positive thinking. Number 12, it's success means a reborn family network. So I kind of have this as a beat of kind of like she's now created this family, but maybe there is someone that has become her enemy. Maybe someone is backstabbing her. Maybe there is some kind of a beat to let her know kind of where she's at. And then I put number 13, it's this road of trials again. But that's more of like if they have a enemy who says, hey, if you go to your Act 1 people and you try to infiltrate their plans or whatever, you're going to run into trial 1, 2, 3, and 4, kind of setting up for Act 3. And then number 14 is the preparing to go to the underworld, preparing to go to the bad guy, preparing to go back to where she was from. And that's her kind of deciding, end of Act 3 or end of Act 2, and then you go into Act 3. So then in Save the Cat, it's a 5-beat finale.
It is.
And the finale, the first one is gather the team, and the second one is storm the castle. So I've kind of combined both of them because she already has this team that she's created from Act 2. So in 15, like we know, instead of her being alone, she now has these people she can lean on, and she can delegate what she's been networking with these people. You're good at being throwing spears, go be spear person. You're good at whatever this is. Hey, that guy said that trial is going to be here. Go do that. You can heal that. She's good at delegating. So then I added number 16 for a plot twist, just to kind of save the cat, add something fun. Gotta have some excitingness at the end. The 17 is what's the compromise. It's kind of like her last hope. What's the last thing she has to do. And then 18 is the end. It's the revenge is not glory or important. It's the integration of the masculine and the feminine. So it's how can they work together. So again, going back to Demeter and Persephone, Demeter found someone who was able to, she found like the sun god or someone said, I saw Hades was sucked down by Hades, or Persephone was sucked down by Hades. She went to the underworld, got Persephone, or found Persephone, and Persephone ate those seeds, the pomegranate seeds, which has forced her to stay near Hades for, mythological reasons. And and then so now the compromise was, okay, so if Persephone's eaten these seeds and she has to stay in the underworld, then I can at least have her for half the year, which is why we get the summer. And Demeter, when Persephone goes underneath and goes back down with Hades, that's why we get winter. So that's that's the compromise. That's the heroine's journey.
Yeah, so I think what I see, I recognize a lot of core storytelling beats that I'm familiar with obviously Save the Cat, 3-act, and Hero's Journey. So I recognize a lot of like, I obviously I see a lot of the similarities, right? Where Hero starts in old world. I think if I was going to break it down and make it simple, Hero starts in an old world, whatever their pre-existing world is. Act 2 revolves around doing a lot of fun things in a new world as they're learning about their journey. And then Act 3 tends to be doing either coming together or doing something to tackle whatever the climax of the story is. Yeah. So I think I can tell from the way you've broken down the heroine's journey that it focuses more on a team and on a cast of characters, is what it seems like. It seems to focus more on group dynamics, which is actually probably a really great format to be doing and creating right now, especially because I think that one of the most popular subgenres right now at the end of the year, as we're going to next year, is actually romantasy, which romantasy tends to be a cast or a group of characters. So I could definitely see this being very, very helpful. With where you're at right now, Chris, are you trying to figure out like how to get it to a certain point? Are you pretty happy with the structure, or kind of how do you feel about it overall?
I'm mostly happy with it right now. What I was trying to ask the writers and even the people who are watching, is there something that you're feeling like is missing? Is there something that might need to be more addressed? Is there something that you feel off about?
I think for me, Chris, and this is just what I know about writers, and this speaks to a little bit what you shared earlier of how like you pulled an outline from that one author that you used for structuring. I mean, it was like 20 something points, right? It was like a long one. And I think, Chris, my only recommendation would be if there's ways to cut down on the wordiness on each of the points and make them simpler. I think you'll have more success in just making it as easy as possible for writers. So like, for example, let's see. So for example, Act 3, Beat 15, excels at delegating, networking, distributing tasks to team, right? I would instead make that even easier. I would do like a simple version for like a beginner version for writers. Team, like delegates tasks to team, or do something that can make that a single beat. So do like an easy breakdown of it. So it's like, basically each one is a single sentence, then do the more advanced one for people who want to learn more. And then that way people don't chance getting like thrown off from like, oh, there's so many more things, but really like your strategy here is easier. And this is actually better for a group. This would be a much better structure for any writer who's working on having, I mean, generally every story is one protagonist, but this would be good for group dynamics. This would work well for romance arcs, because it generally tends to be a couple characters. I like it personally. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, when you're saying like cut things down, like it can be chapter headings. This is again just a rough outline.
Okay, just a rough outline. Gotcha.
This is a very rough outline. This isn't what I would be like publishing or anything. This is just more from my own.
Gotcha. Writing. Like the more brainstorm aspect of it.
Putting the words that they used.
No, that makes sense.
I haven't done it to myself yet or made it my thing yet, but I just wanted to present it to see if this is.
Yeah, I mean, I think then each of the beats do work. Revenge and glory, not important. That's technically a resolution. As I'm kind of working back here. So revenge and glory, not important is resolution. It's really what did they learn about their journey. Revenge and glory, not important. Integration of masculine and feminine.
It's not. Oh, I have to do this. Nope. Is that what I did? No. Dang it. How did I scroll it? How did I scroll it? I was scrolling.
I think I would make 18 a little bit more general. in terms of, because revenge and glory might not be important, but that could be for a specific type of story work.
Oh,
I actually
totally.
like that you have the integration of masculine and feminine, because that's a little bit more more broad.
Right.
I would almost go like integration of all characters' journeys, or integration of team, or integration of delegation, because I think if you tied 18 to 15, I think that would make that a little bit more cyclical, so to speak. I like the plot twist. Plot twist is great because we all want to get to the climax and have that thing that we weren't expecting. I think the plot twist is great.
Yeah, so like what you said, I kind of took some things from Save the Cat and just kind of like combined it, just like made my own version. Because usually, actually, the beats are all like, the beats in these books are 10. They're just 10. It's just 10 beats. So this I made 18, just to kind of like flush it out more.
Which I think it definitely works, and I think it makes it a little easier when you're working with a cast of characters. So Tiara, what do you guys think?
I think so. I was working on like this urban fantasy kind of series at one point, and it's shelved now, but it had all these inspirations, charm being one of them. But I going through this, I was like, oh my god, I could have used this as an outline for that, because I had such a hard time. I had all these characters, I had all these points of views, I had all this moving pieces, and it felt like something like this made it a lot simpler. So I feel like this might be a good way to tackle multi POV as well. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, like I know I can't scroll, but like for some reason, for whatever reason, I don't even know anymore. But like at the very
you could also try using the up button, the up and down button.
Where?
Up and down keys on your keyboard?
Oh. Nope, not working.
Oh,
I thought that might work. Sorry.
Problems. So at the very beginning, I had 1 and 2. 1 was prep for the story, and it was a world building spread. 2 was the main character spread. I was thinking about adding a third one in there for like a make a problem spread, but I feel like the writer who's already going into their story, they kind of already know what the problem is.
Right.
So
That's a good point.
I don't think that we need to have that step in there, but you never know. But anyway, yeah. Anybody else have a thought? Sorry, I interrupted someone. I thought I did.
No, I'm the one who interrupted, so I'm sorry. Honestly, I really like this. I honestly gotta admit it's a little wordy in a few places, so I feel like I would get a little lost trying to like follow this. Mainly like 13, maybe 18, and 15.
A lot of this also is going to depend on what the writer is writing and what comes out. Because if I like, again, number 13 with that Road of Trials, it's kind of like they may not even need to use it, kind of a thing.
Right.
It just kind of depends on how the story is coming out. But also when I used the first one up at the top, it was like number, like 8 or 7 or something. It just kind of like, if you get a Road of Trials and you pick like I use tarot cards. So if you get the card of number 3, you're only going to get 3 trials. But if another writer is doing the same thing and they get 5, they're going to do 5 trials. So it just
that's a good point.
It just kind of like, it just depends on what the writer is going to write and what they're inspired to write. And again, if they get 5, they can decide to write 4 if they want to. It doesn't have to. You don't have to stick to this or stick to whatever the cards say. But it's just one of those things to where if you get 5 trials and success or fail, that's going to probably help you guide also where your story is going. It just, if someone's going to get 1, someone's going to get 8. Like it doesn't. It just kind of depends on how it's written. Kind of.
Yeah. So I think also, Chris, if somebody wanted to take a look at it, or somebody wanted to give you feedback, especially if they're watching the replay of this, how would they be able to get a hold of you, or where would be the best way if they wanted to like connect with you?
My website is chrislilly.tv. Go to the contact there. I'm on all social medias. I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all of it. But yeah, like chrislilly.tv is probably the best one to reach me at. I can't decide what I want to do with this yet. I might make a nonfiction book first,
Kind of like use it as like a proof of concept.
Yeah, that, and then I might do it. I'm thinking about maybe possibly doing like a intro, not like an intro course, but like people who might want to go on the journey with me. I just don't exactly know how or what to do about that yet in the spring of the next year. But I figured if enough people are interested, it's almost like a writing group maybe, but like we can do like a weekly prompt, choose one of these prompts and just go week by week and just kind of like break it up and just kind of experience like with tarot cards, not just writing it, but with tarot cards, because that's what I do. There you go. That's what I'm kind of thinking about doing, and there's still a couple of spreads that I would have to make up myself, but that's what I give them this if they want to read this book. It's The Heroine's Journey by Maureen Murdoch. It's this is more of a real life what women go through in their lives. This one's the one that kind of goes into more pop culture. But Gail Carriger. That one gives a little bit more into that. And the only reason I'm using this book is because in the reversals, if you're looking at the Fool's Journey, that closely mirrors the hero's journey. But in the tarot world, when the cards are reversed and they're read reversed, that's the heroine's journey. I don't really like it because it's a lot of negative stuff in there. And I'm just like, that's a lot. Women have it hard in tarot reversal world. Like it. So yeah, and then this is the other one that I was using just for the hero's journey. But there's another one in the Tarot for Writers book that actually has a plot point versus a 12, and that's the one that I used.
Oh, so okay, that makes sense. And I mean, that's good. I think clearly you're using different references as you're trying to practice and like build this, which is awesome, right? And I think that's definitely a really good strategy.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to present and just see what everyone's thoughts are on it, because I'm trying to decide what to do with it. And I just wanted, I wanted to not be in my own head about it. And I wanted to talk to writers about it. And
yeah, Chris, I think, Chris, like if I were doing something like, or if I created something like this, I think there's a couple different strategies you could do on like, okay, well, what do I do it with it next? I think your idea of, all right, write a book using it, that's a great strategy. I think you could also, as a YouTuber, you could totally create a YouTube video about it. If I was going to do something about structuring, I think I would actually create a YouTube video about structuring novels or structuring books or screenplays or whatever. I would package it based on using like 3 acts, Save the Cat, but then I would also include the conversation on mine because people know what to expect with Save the Cat and 3 act, and that's what will pull people in. Or you could package it as like heroes versus heroine structure. Which one is better, right? So I think there's a couple of different ways you could go about it, but I think I would include it as part of the conversation with structuring. And I think if you did it as a video, that would work because videos work very well for searchability. But then you could also like do a live stream with it, obviously. But I think that's how I'd go about it. Like do maybe an explanation. And then you could lead that into, if you did it, tied it in with like a writer's group. I think if there's a way for you to create an exercise out of it, that'd be super fun.
Yeah, and
we would of course welcome that if you ever want to come out and come back and play any writing games. Like,
I mean, I got 18 of them now. So
all right, look, okay, guys. So we're going to try the Heroine's Journey, but you got to do it word count, and you have to beat Chat Soul using the structure. All right, my friends. Well, Chris, I'll definitely have. Oh,
before we go, I just wanted to say thank you for listening to my spiel about what I'm trying to create.
No, of course. And that's what we're here for, right? I think I love the idea of writers being able to, like, whether writers, authors, content creators, being able to bring things that they're working on, because that's what writers groups are for, right? Yeah. Writers groups are for not just procrastinating, also trying to get some work done, and also sharing ideas. And that's one of the things that I wanted to bring to a virtual writers group. So anytime that you guys have something that you're working on, always welcome to bring it here and kind of see what the community thinks. Chris, also make sure if I get any comments or see people in the community like ask questions about it on the replay, I'll shoot it your way as well. Also make sure to throw it to the Discord community as well. You might get some more intentional feedback if you post it over in the it's a looking for work channel in the Discord.
I
Was it
just-
looking for work? So you probably it's one of the channels. There's a channel where you can post stuff.
Yeah, I'd say the looking for work channel might be the best place to post it.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then
And
I
you
At
can
least
probably
off
get
the top of my
some
head
solid
without
feedback.
looking.
and then
Yeah,
I
and I
just
think it's also one of those things where some writers are going to want to like look at it and read it themselves and be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I like this, I don't like this. So I
Yeah.
think that'd be another way as well.
and then I put my website in the comments on the YouTube channel too. So
Beautiful, wonderful. And but once again, thank you all for joining us today. That brings us to a wrap on today's session of the Right Now Writers Group. For those of you guys who have been joining us, today is session meeting 25. Wow. So you get the gold star for 25 meetings so far. We'll be back next Wednesday with the next meeting of the Right Now Writers Group. Obviously, it's Christmas Day, so it's probably going to be a little early. But if there's anything that we've learned, even if I'm in the hospital, nothing will stop me from streaming. So we'll be back next week. I'll be back tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Thursday.
Yeah.
I think it's 2 p.m. Pacific, 2, 3, 4, 5 p.m. Eastern. If any of you guys want to join me for some writing sprints, hopefully I can get some more work done on Scarecrow. And that is all that we have for you guys today. Thank you for joining us. We've had some great conversations today. And I really, really love seeing new faces. Chris, I loved seeing you today. Tiara, I love seeing you as well. You guys are, of course, welcome to join us any Wednesday. We meet every single Wednesday at the same time, except for Christmas Day, apparently. But every other Wednesday at the same time, we meet at the same exact time. So, and that won't stop anytime soon. So thank you all for joining us. If you were commented in the chat, you're awesome. We appreciate you. And that is all that I got for you. I am Kaufman, and below me, this is
Chat Soul.
And over in that direction is
Sierra.
And I'm
and
Chris.
perfect. And we'll catch you on the next stream.